All right. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. So glad to have you with us. My name is David Severance. I'm one of the coaches here at Chirag Shah Coaching. Delighted to have you with us for another session of Playbook. If you were with us last week, you saw me then and you saw how we do these things when Chirag is unable to be on the call with us. If you're here for the first time, welcome. What we're going to do today is in just a minute, we're going to play the video that Chirag recorded yesterday. We're going to pick up our conversation from last week and continue it a little bit further here. So he records a video the night before and he'll send it to us. And so we have it. So we're going to play it in a few minutes. Today's is about a 12 or 13 minute video. And then after that, we will have some live discussion. So we have a couple of questions that he kind of throws out during the video. And then I have a couple of things that I want to add to it. So I'll ask Herson to run the video now. And when we come back, we'll have a few minutes to talk a little bit further. So Herson, please.
Happy Monday, everybody. I hope everyone's having a great start to their week. So before we get into the 4 seasons method of client experience, I just want everyone to just take a brief pause. So last week we talked about clearly communicating compensation. And this is a direct extension, I would say, of that conversation and a little bit more of a twist. You know, when you start thinking about this new world of real estate, the new way of is your value proposition clear, concise, quantifiable? The first pivot I want all of us to make in our mind is stop thinking that they're just buyers and sellers. And look, we're in the experience business. People love experiences, and buying or selling a home is an experience. So I want you to anchor this thought in this moment right now, that what you create with buyers and sellers is an experience. Now, I just want to touch upon this as we start building this out. One of the biggest challenges that people have in this business is what happens if a buyer or seller does not want your experience, aka your service, the way you work, your boundaries, your communication plan, whatever that line is for you, that a client that meets your standards versus a client that does not meet your standards. Well, it's really simple. Well, the first question that I would ask someone is what type of experience are you looking for with somebody buying or selling a home? Remember that question that sellers or buyers ask when they don't know if you have what they're looking for, what makes you different than other agents? And I'll go through the quick script on that. What makes you different than other agents? I'm really glad that you asked that. If you want to know what makes me different, I can share the names of several clients that worked successfully, and some may or may not have worked with other agents. More importantly, what type of experience you're looking for in the agent you partner with in blank, buying or selling, and let them share with you what they want. And when you go through and you have a clear, concise, quantifiable value proposition, and there's still friction, it's really simple. And this is why the med-C is important. This is how it all ties together. You can go back to what their motivation are, what they're excited about, what their expectations were, and what your past disappointments were. And you can say, look, simply, you know, based on blank and blank and blank, you know, your motivation to move to Florida, that you're excited about having extra income from no state income tax to travel, and that your expectations was an agent that was a great communicator, just gave you the information straight, and your past disappointments were around communication, not getting all the information up front. I don't think I'm the right agent for you because you're looking for a different type of experience than I could provide. That's a much nicer way of saying you're completely unrealistic. So I just want us to start off by anchoring this thought, this process, and this framework into our mind. Now, let's talk about the 4 seasons method of real estate. Do you know what makes these high-end hospitality resorts great? You're paying for an experience when you go there. You know it's repeatable. It's the same thing every time you go there, and it's predictable what it's going to be like. Well, let me ask you right now, if you had to pause and hit in the chat, and Herson, open up the chat, yes or no. If somebody was buying or selling a home with you, we're going to focus on buyers today. Do you have repeatable, predictable experiences? Well, regardless of who worked with you, they'd be able to share the same exact thing that happened at the same exact point because it was curated that way. Yes or no? If it's no, you have tons of room for improvement. Yes, I challenge you because everyone, as Tony Robbins say, it's that 1 millimeter rule. When you hit a certain pinnacle of success, it's that 1 millimeter to change. That's the difference that makes a difference. So what makes things great? They're repeatable and predictable. Now, I want you to start thinking about this. We're in the experience business. And for buyers, where does the experience begin? The initial consultation. So what is someone's repeatable, predictable experience with you? Well, the first thing is I want them to know that I care and that they trust me. And remember, caring and trust is a feeling that's created through interactions and engagements. So if you want people to know that you care and that you are trustworthy, it's through the interactions and engagements, and it's the questions you ask. This is where you go to the med C. How many people really want to know what motivates somebody, what they're most excited about as a result of the move? What are their expectations as an agent they partner with for the sale or the purchase of their home? What are their past disappointments that they've had with any service providers or agents they've worked with in the past? And lastly, what are their concerns? That is the anchor to all of the framework that you use to sell somebody and to create a great experience. Then from there, remember, high-end hospitality, true luxury knows their clients best. So the question is, how well do you know your clients? And now this is where we're really going to start digging in. When moving somewhere, many people commonly focus on, well, how many bedrooms are you looking for? How many bathrooms? Do you want a backyard? Do you want to be on a cul-de-sac? You know, what are your must-haves? What are your would likes? And just remember, they can go on compass.com, Zillow, Trulia, Redfin. They can fill out the same information. They're there with a human being. So this is where we have to really start digging deeper. Guys, I'm still learning how to snap. Anyway, so this is where you really have to start digging deeper. Now, I always say that, you know, a home is where you build your memories and a community is where your life happens. Our goal is to pair the two together to give you the perfect life. So then you start asking them, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? And the question is, why do you want 4 bedrooms, not 5 bathrooms? Hey, I would love to know a little bit more of like, what are your mornings like? I see that you're married, you have 2 kids, your kids are under 10. Like, what time are the school buses? What time do you have to leave to get to work? I used to ask clients when I sold real estate, how many people have to take a shower between 7 to 8 a.m.? And the reason I ask that, and so you don't think I'm crazy, is, look, you're coming from New York City. That's where most of the buyers I work with came from. I knew that anything to them was an upgrade from an 800-900 square foot apartment where they're with 1 or 2 kids. So they would look at these houses with 3 beds, 1 bath, and they think they're really great. And I would explain to them, okay, if you're going to have 4 people get ready, what time do the alarm clocks have to go on? Who's going to get the last shower? Who has to be the first one out the door? You want to really understand how these people live within their home. Now, here's some great questions to ask, and I encourage you to make your own. I would ask people, when you're thinking about a house and you're thinking about the holidays, what are the favorite rooms of your house? What does that feel like? What does that look like? What do you want your kitchen to be like? Do you have a big dining room? Do you have an open family room? Get them to start talking about how they want to experience a home. First of all, this builds instant rapport. Second, you have a better idea how to curate your collections. Number 2, you want to ask them, currently, where do you spend the most time as individuals, couples, families, whatever it is? And when dreaming of a home or when you make your next move, where would you like to spend the most time? And that starts a whole other conversation. Then I would get into morning routines. I'd get into evening routines and I would literally frame the conversation. You might think some of the questions I'm going to ask you are crazy. And some of them you might think, why would a real estate agent want to know this? Or you might think that they're way too personal. The only reason I ask is, in my blank years of experience, I have found that not thinking about these leaves, it's not money on the table. I would say it leaves an opportunity to miss something that is really important that's on us to figure out. I would hate for somebody to move into a house and not think about these small details, because people get really excited, especially if they're coming from a metro city to a suburb. And then you'd share a story, because stories work really great to help people understand. And that will build the connection with the buyers. Then now let's start talking about their lifestyle. I would start asking them, are you a coffee drinker? Do you like to make coffee at home? Do you get it in the morning? Do you commute? Where's work? How far is work? What are your favorite restaurants? How often do you like to go out to eat? Do your kids eat pizza once a week? And where do you like to go? You're starting to learn all this information. There are 2 things that are going to happen here. Number 1, your client's going to think that you care more about them, their home, and how they live than any of the other agents. Because I don't know many people who do this. I've seen hundreds of home buyer intake forms, and none of them really go this deep. The next question is what am I going to do with all this information? I got 2 words for you. Predictable client experiences in your CRM. If someone tells you what they love for holidays, where they like to go, what their favorite restaurant is, where their coffee is, do you know how many meaningful connections, phone calls, thoughts, gifts, and things that you can provide people? It is on another level. So I wanted to take us through a simple framework, and we're going to open it up for discussion after this. First thing is, rule number 1 or point number 1 is we're in the client experience business. And ask yourself, what part of the transactions are you doing that are repeatable and predictable if you ask your clients and really lean into those? And on the second side, what repeatable, predictable experiences you need to build out? And then on the third column would be, what does success look like? You know, Robert says if we don't align around the same view of success, people have varied results. So you want to understand what good and what great looks like and define it there. So column 1 is, what are your great, predictable, repeatable client experiences currently? Column 2, what are the ones you want to create? Column 3, what does great look like? The next part to all this is you're going to want to understand in your own questions more about the home and how people live in it. And the next one is their community and how they live in that. I would go crazy with questions, and I would actually do this with people in person where you could ask the questions, write down the answers and everything else. It'll also build a lot of rapport because as local experts, you know the stuff really well. Then I would preface this in a buyer consultation by saying, look, we ask more questions, I would say generally than most agents do. Some of them might be overly personal, but when we're helping you make such a professional, such a large financial and personal decisions, it's our job to know all the details. And if you think about any great client experiences, they know and obsess over their customers the most. Think about every year when you're here and you get an email or a phone call from someone, whether it be your sales manager, someone in leadership, or even Robert himself, that wishes you a happy Compass anniversary. How much do those little moments mean for you? Well, those are the same type of moments that we want to create for our clients and our customers in this 4 seasons method. You can take this framework and use it for buyers, and you can use it for sellers. I want us to start with buyers because with all the NAR potential lawsuit updates, the compensation that's starting now, these are things that we really want to dial down and nail into. So when someone asks you what makes you different than another agent, you can say, I'm not really sure, but I can share with you the experience I provide, and you can tell me if it's something that aligns with what you'd like or something that you felt you'd be better suited with another agent. So there's so many different ways to go about this. I encourage you to be creative. Again, I encourage you to get into accountability groups, lean into the community, use the chat, reach out to people. And even if people in your office create this stuff together, because everyone's going to connect with somebody differently. So we're going to open it up to discussion. And remember, documenting anything is for the sole purpose of being able to make future decisions off of it. So when you're going through all this information, these are great tags in your CRM. These are great things to put in the notes section, and we'll get more into that in tomorrow's session of creating predictable experiences from a client from your CRM. So it's always love in my heart. I love you all, and we'll open it up for discussion. Bye, everybody.
So there's a lot of stuff in there. He makes a lot of points about different aspects of this, but the first and most fundamental one that you should come away from today's call with is it's about creating experiences. You can write this down and think about it. I don't offer a service. I create experiences. You see, if you make this distinction in your mind between offering a service and creating an experience, the creating experience tends to be thought of, or even unconsciously, as a much more comprehensive element to the relationship that you have with the person you're working with. For example, if you say, I offer a service. Well, the very first time that you call a new agent, a new client, and you say, okay, yeah, let's meet. We'll have our first conversation tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And then you're running a little late for traffic tomorrow at 3 o'clock. So you just call the person and say, hey, I'll be there about 5 minutes late. Looking forward to meeting you. If you think you're just providing a service, your service hasn't started yet. But if you think you're creating an experience, you're already failing because you're 5 minutes late, right? You're creating an experience in that person's mind of, this is an agent who doesn't show up when she tells me she's going to show up. And so if you start to think about what you do as creating experience, everything that you do and everything you don't do contributes to that person's experience. So let me ask you this. how would you answer this question? What do you want others to experience through you? This is a question I've asked many of my clients, and some people are really clear and some people are not. If I ask you, what do you want people to experience through you? What is that? Put that into the chat, please. What do you want people to experience through you? For us, a calm transaction, great communications, seamless real estate transaction, and a knowledgeable realtor, confidence, clear expectations, care, protection, comfort, and openness, consistency, genuine, cared about, memorable, stress-free, be their go-to person. These are all good elements to think about. If you think about what you're talking about here, you're talking about your brand. Your brand is the experience that other people have of you. Here's my definition of a brand. Very simple. The promise of a future experience. When you say what is a brand is simply a promise that people are making about what their experience is going to be like before it happens. And so it creates an expectation. And it's very easy for us to say, oh yeah, I want to have a great brand. And my brand in the industry is of a knowledgeable, experienced person who really knows everything and really cares for his or her customers. That's great. Is it really happening? We sometimes think that, oh yeah, I'm right on top of my brand and I'm right on top of, creating a predictable and repeatable experience. But are you? We may think, oh yeah, I've got this form and I hand it out at this stage of the process, or I've got my spiel down on my pitch. This is how I always handle it. I talk about this first, I talk about that second, I talk about that third. We might feel quite comfortable and familiar with what we do, but does that mean that it's coming across to everybody similarly or not? And when you look at the transaction from the very beginning, the very first time you meet the person to the very end of the process, is that predictable and repeatable for a large number of your clients or not? It's easy for us to say yes, but probably somewhere along the way, it might not be. There might be certain parts of the process where we stumble a little bit. Maybe we don't communicate with them as often as we kind of indicated we would. Or maybe we missed a check-in with them for whatever reason. Or we gave them a marketing calendar and it turned out that we didn't quite follow it exactly. All of these things contribute to the experience that the other person has. And so when Chirag mentions, do you think you have a predictable and repeatable experience? You can say yes or no. But I suspect that it's more nuanced than that. There may be certain areas where you're really more solid and others where you're not. And if I went to 5 or 10 of your clients and I asked them, what is your experience of Tanya? And just listen to the words they say. If it was really predictable and repeatable, they'd all use the same words. And so it's easy for you to say, oh yeah, sure. I'm sure all my clients would say the same thing. Is it really? Because if so, I'm willing to give it a try. If somebody wants to hire me to interview all your folks, I'm happy to do that. Just joking, but that's the point, right? If anybody were to actually do it, what would they actually get? So let me ask Laura Lynn to come off of mute. Laura, if you can just talk a little bit, you were one of the ones that said an enthusiastic yes. I saw an exclamation point when you said yes to your feeling like your particular service is predictable and repeatable. And I was just wanted to ask you, how do you come to that conclusion? What gives you that sense that you're there?
Hi, David.
Hi, Laura.
And sorry, I just got done working out, so I got to stay off video.
No worries.
With regards to just the buyer seller process.
Yeah.
I've just been in the business so long. We've got checklists and systems and processes for everything that we do. Got it.
So that's good. No doubt about it. And, Chirag mentioned that if you're doing this well, that there's still little like a millimeter or space for you to kind of continue to think growing it better.
For sure.
My perspective is that for you, Laura, and for everybody on the call, it's not just about having predictable processes, right? We can have a checklist and we can have the communication plan, we can have the marketing plan, all that stuff ready to hand out at the right moment. But consistency of delivery of the experience comes through a philosophical clarity. if you're not absolutely clear about what you're trying to provide, there's no way you can provide it consistently. And especially if you're leading a team, what makes you think everybody on the team, and this is not just for Laura, it's for everybody, what makes you think everybody on the team is acting in the same way that you would to create that same type of predictable experience? And so there's a philosophical piece here that's really important for you to be clear about. And so if you're not clear about what your team's values are or what your personal beliefs are for the organization and the way it should serve the world, then that's some work for you to do. For example, everything you do should have a connection to whatever those principles are. For example, at Chirag Shah Coaching, 2 of our values are community, collaboration. Well, you can understand why Chirag keeps mentioning to sign up for the accountability groups and other opportunities like that to reach out to somebody else on the call. We keep referring people to each other because we believe there is great value in this community. And we want you to have an experience of community with other people. It's not just you signing up in this tunnel to listen to the calls every day, but there's an opportunity for you to connect with others in a way and collaborate with others in a way that creates value for you. And so if I ask you, how clear are you about what your philosophical statement is about how you serve the world? Are you able to do that? Could you give me the top of your head?
Yeah, I can't. And I really appreciate you bringing up the difference. And it's something that I will put at the top of the list to work on with the team to actually really define what that philosophical vision is. I think that we have hired our team with a very specific culture in mind, and that is extremely strong. And I guess I just intrinsically feel like we all have the same vision,
right?
But it's not something that we've clarified and certainly haven't put in writing.
Yep. So this is something, thank you, Laura, for coming on. So this is something for everyone to think about. It's very easy to just assume everybody has the same philosophy of business as you, right? Oh yeah, we're all professionals here. We all want to provide good service. We're all knowledgeable and we want to keep up to date with all the latest stuff in the market. Yeah, that's all kind of a given. But if you really query people, and here's what you can do, Laura, or anybody can do, is ask your team next time you gather to just give them a blank piece of paper and say, write down the things that our team stands for in priority order and just see what you get. Just say, write down the things that you believe our team stands for in priority order and see what you get. What I think you're going to get is a lot of variety. You'll see some of the words that are the same, but you'll see some of the words that are different too. And when you do that, what that tells you is those people are coming to the work every day from a different place from you.
I love that idea. Thank you.
Yep. I did this
I'll get
once.
back to you on that.
Yep, sure. I know. I did this once with a team of, I had 9 people. They were the board of a pretty prominent nonprofit in the New York area. And they were having trouble. And I said, after hearing from them initially, you're not on the same page. And they're like, oh no, we're all on the same page. We're all on the same page. And I said, great. I walked in, I said, okay, please write down the top 3 things that this organization stands for in priority order. Well, I didn't get 3 different values. I didn't get 5 different values. I didn't get 9 different values. I got 27 different values out of 9 people. And so what that told me was nobody was on the same page with anybody else, even though they all thought they were. Let me share with you what 4 Seasons says. Since we've been talking about 4 Seasons, I went on the website this morning, and here's 4 Seasons philosophy about what luxury means. This is the business that they believe they are in. 3 sentences. To us, true luxury is a meaningful sense of belonging. It is a dedicated focus on how people want to be treated, grounded in the genuine care you experience during your stay, and defined by an abundance of humanity and generosity. Those are pretty clear statements. They put some kind of a stake in the ground and say, that's what we're all about here. And if I pull words out of here that really matter, there's the belonging, there's humanity, there's generosity, and then there's also this concept of genuine care. And so what they're saying is everything they do now, from hotels to condos to ships, and now they're even doing airline stuff, always is going to come back to that philosophical approach. It's their brand. It's the experience that they want others to create. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on was Chirag talked about questions. questions go greatly to reflecting your particular philosophy or whatever it is you value, what's your brand and what the experiences that you want to create. And I'm curious, he listed some questions there, like, you know, who takes the shower first, and do you get coffee in the morning, or do you make coffee in the morning, right? He's going to great detail to understand the client. And of course, we can all understand the value of understanding the client. I'm curious to hear from you. What is a question that you typically ask clients that you think probably almost no other agents would ever bother to ask? Put that into the chat, please. What is a question that you often ask that you don't think any other agent asks? So far, I see 2 folks out of 87. How do I win with you? How do I lose with you? What keeps you up at night when you think about buying or selling? Similar to Chirag, how do you live in your home? What will your next home give you that your current one does not? What's your favorite memory from your present home? What new memories would you like to create? What's the most important part of a house to you? When working with a past realtor, what didn't go well? Great, that's like the disappointment part of the Med C. What's the most important thing you're looking for when working with an agent? These are all really good questions, but they don't strike me as particularly unique. I'm wondering what questions you ask that not everyone else asks. It's not easy, right? Do you enjoy being awakened by the sun? Okay, that's a question that maybe not everybody would ask. Are there any hobbies that relate to your housing needs? If you were to stay in your home, what would be the first thing you'd change? You see, if people say, you know, what makes you different? One of the things that makes you different is you're absolutely clear about what the experience is that you want to create for others. Therefore, you know exactly which questions you need to ask. Our Med C came out of our concept. Chirag and I sat down and we worked and we created Med C because it relates to how we want people to experience being a client of ours. We think it's an extremely valuable tool for you to get at certain things inside your client's mind. And virtually everything we do touches on some part of the experience that we want people to have. Chirag has told you many times that it's important to us that we not just share things with you, but that you implement them in your business. And so we try to make them as simple and as simplistic as possible so that you actually go out and do that. And we want to support you to work with others so that you'll actually go out and do that. And so it should be theoretically everything that we choose to do in any of our businesses should relate to the experience that we want others to have. What types of things do you enjoy doing? If you could live anywhere, where would it be? What is your fondest childhood memory that you'd like to experience in your new home? That's a little different, perhaps. What's the scariest thing when thinking of buying real estate? Okay. If you could wave a magic wand, what are the top 3 things you wish you could change in your current home? So when you all look at these particular questions, are these questions that never occurred to you before? Because if they have occurred to you, then maybe they're not as unique as we think they are. And if they're not as unique as we think we are, then the experience we're creating for the individual may not be as unique as we think it is. It certainly may not be unique to us. All right, I'm going to give you one more chance. Give me the craziest, most useful question you've ever asked a client before. Put that into the chat. What's a question that you asked that was totally off the standard path, but actually gave you some real value, something you learned about the client? It's not easy, right? See, we can make the process predictable and repeatable for us, but that doesn't mean that the experience that we're trying to create is predictable for the person on the other end of it. And those of us who have been in the field for a long time, we have a lot of experience. We've got our process down. We have all the structure and process in place to create what seems to us to be a very predictable process. But in the end, it's not what it looks like to us. It's what it looks like to the client. And so if the client were to submit to an interview with some outside person, and that person were to ask them, what did you get from your experience? How would you describe it? If they would describe it similarly to everybody else, and that's in in alignment with what it is you're trying to create, then you're absolutely in the right space. So give some thought to all of this. It's really important stuff that you continue to clarify your understanding of what your intended experience or intended impact is. And if you lead a team, it's absolutely crucial that your team members also create that same experience, even if they go about doing it differently. There's nothing wrong with people approaching a situation a little bit differently, as long as the impact is still consistent with what you're trying to create. And let us know where you struggle with this. Let us know where you think you need more help. We're happy to develop more programs going forward that can touch on some of this stuff for you. Ultimately, the only thing that matters to the success of your business is the experience that your clients have. And so giving real rigor to what you want that experience to be and really looking in a very minute, discerning way at everything you do and make sure it's contributing to that is how you can assure that that happens. All right, folks, we're a little over time today. Sorry we couldn't get to everybody's comments. So glad to be with you. Hope you'll take some of this and continue to think going forward how you can be really purposeful and planned in everything you do regarding the experiences you create. Have a great day. We'll see you all tomorrow.